Hello, and welcome to my first installment in my Politics for Dummies series. Today, we will be going over demand-side economics versus supply-side economics. Now, there's a few different names for supply-side, Reaganomics, Trickle-Down economics, etc., but it's formally known as supply-side economics. And we're going to be going over the differences, some of the positives of each side, the negatives, and at the tail end, I'll give my opinion on which side I feel is best for America and what you should be looking for in the candidates in the next election cycle. So for the TLDR version of this video, supply side policies or demand side policies. Current America needs demand side policies because we are a first world nation based on services, whereas supply side policies work best in an industry backed economy. And since America is no longer an industry backed economy, we need first world policies, which is demand side policy. So let's go over the supply and demand curve, which is going to be the basis of supply side versus demand side. Weird. So there are two curves in a supply and demand curve, and these are tied to the price of the product that you're selling. Let's say beans. Okay, we are looking at the bean market. All right. So if the price is really high, this is the demand curve. If the price is really high, not a lot of quantity is going to be sold because the price is so high, only a few people can afford beans. If the price is really low, a large quantity is going to be sold. And depending on who you're talking to, the line is either just like a line or a slight curve. I prefer the slight curve. It's better in my opinion. Likewise, on the supply side, so this is the demand side, okay? Demand is always a negative slope, okay? Always negative. The supply side, however, if the price is really high or if the price is really low, they're not going to be able to sell a lot because they're not making a lot of money and they don't have the money to pay employees, yada, yada, yada. So price is really low, they're not going to sell a lot. But if the price is really high, then they have a huge overhead, they can afford all these new machines and everything, and they can sell a lot. All right, so this is the supply side. All right, and this is what is known as equilibrium. This is essentially in a free market, in laissez-faire capitalism, okay? This is the point, this is the price that you, as the supplier, want to set your price at, because you are going to be making the most amount of money for the amount of quantity that you're selling, and you're going to be guaranteed to sell that amount because everybody's willing to buy at that price point. So let's go over what the supply side economics tries to do. Supply side economics, essentially what it tries to do is it tries to move the supply graph over. So instead of being over here in the free market, laissez-faire, it's going to be over here. I'm going to draw a nice curve, almost the same, okay? Yada, yada, yada. You get the point. So now we have a new equilibrium over here. And as you can see, the price is lower now, and the quantity is higher. So this is our new supply curve, and we will denote it with S1, E1. It's our new equilibrium, okay? So essentially what supply side economics tries to do is by giving tax cuts, benefits, helping out the wealthy in the nation, essentially you're moving the supply side over. And this will create a new equilibrium, and this doesn't just apply to the bean market, this applies to all markets everywhere in theory. and you're going to get lower prices on all of the products, and it's just going to be better. And that is what supply-side economics attempts to do. So let's do a little picture diagram sort of thing, okay, to sort of explain supply-side economics. Okay, so we got big government over here, okay? Big government, woo, look at us, we're the government, G for government, cool. And you got Farmer Bob over here who plows his fields and is just a generally great guy. He makes beans, okay? So we got beans over here, and he's a bean farmer. All right, awesome. So every year, Farmer Bob, Farmer Bob makes, let's say, 1.5 tons of beans every year, okay? And he sells it for, let's say, he makes $500,000 gross profit, okay? $500,000 a year, per year, okay? And that is before taxes, all right? And let's say taxes takes, let's say, $200,000 out, okay? That is an egregious amount, but we'll just do it for kicks and giggles. Okay, $200,000 a year. So Bob is left with taxes, $200,000. He's left with $300,000, okay, per year to spend on whatever he pleases. That can be used for his business, his family, his home, whatever, upkeep, all that, yada, 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 okay? So in supply-side economics, what we're doing is we're changing the taxes on Bob's business, okay? So instead of $200,000, let's say instead we go with only $100,000. Well, now Bob has $400,000 that he can spend, okay? And so what Bob can do with that extra $100,000 is he can hire another person, okay? We'll call this guy Jake, okay? Jake, boom. Yay, Jake. All right, so Bob hires Jake with that extra $100,000, okay? So now Jake helps Bob grow his farm and get more plots and raise his production. So now he's making 2 tons of beans every year, okay? So now that is getting Bob, let's say $600,000, just keep it easy. $600,000 every year, and still the $100,000 taxes, let's just say it's like a flat per year tax. I'm not gonna go into tax theory that much. So now Bob has $500,000. Oh, that's great. Per year, he's making an extra $100,000. Now that is a ginormous amount and won't ever happen and can't happen. But for this example, that's what's happening, okay? So Bob is getting richer and richer. $500,000, he can spend that on whatever. He could hire another person. He could get more land. He could invest in new tractors. He could invest in some form of whatever, okay? So supply-side economics says that we should help out all these suppliers by lowering taxes, which gives them more capital to invest in new jobs, in new machinery, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And on paper, this totally works. I'll be going over why I think this works and where this works later on in the video, but let's go over demand side right now. Okay, so let's go over demand side economics. Once again, we have the demand and supply curve. We have the price of the product and the quantity sold of the product, right? So what demand side tries to do is it tries to move this over to the right, right? So we have a new curve over here. Call this D2, okay? And something that looks the same-ish, okay? All right, and our new equilibrium, call it E2. All right, so with demand-side economics, the thing you have to see is that our equilibrium is once again over to the right, but the prices have raised, as you can see. The price of the product has raised, so there's been inflation here. However, the quantity is also higher. So demand side and supply side sort of have the same effect, but slightly different effects as well. They're going to get the same quantity sold, theoretically, but the demand side is going to raise prices while the supply side is going to lower prices. And neither one is really worse than the other, since we're getting the same effect generally. So that's what demand side tries to do with the demand and supply curve, as it tries to move it over and hit that new point. So let's illustrate demand side economics with a picture as well. Yay! So we have some dude named Chris, okay? And Chris is a pretty great guy, and he makes, let's say, $50,000 a year, okay? All right, his income is $50,000. Works at a great little business, makes $50,000, yay. Now, with that $50,000, he has to pay off his different taxes, different loans, yada, yada, yada. And let's say, in the end, he's spending about $45,000 total in costs, okay? That can be taxes, it can be debts, it can be whatever he needs to pay off, okay? Grocery bills, all that. Okay, so he's left with $5,000 of free cash to do with whatever he wants, all right? And so he can go see a movie, he can go to a nice restaurant, et cetera, okay? So what demand-side economics tries to do is it tries to fix this costs, all right? So let's say $50,000, okay? He still makes $50,000, but after the government says, let's lower taxes, let's lower the costs of daily life, all right? Chris is going to be, his costs are going to go down, let's say down to, I don't know, $35,000, okay? $35,000 Chris now pays in costs, all right? So he now makes $15,000 every year in profit, all right? Now with that $15,000, he can go and do essentially 3 times as many things as he could before. So he can go to a really nice restaurant, or he can go to nicer movies, he can go to more movies, et cetera. So basically demand-side economics says, let's try and get as much money into the pockets of the people buying things to then go out and put that money into the economy. So let's say Chris is buying from Bob, our bean farmer, okay? And Bob is selling them for, let's say, $200. That's a terrible number, but let's just go with it. $200 per bean. So before, Chris didn't really want to spend that much on $200 per bean because, I mean, he only has $5,000 to do with what he wants to do. But now that he's making $15,000, $200 isn't that bad. He could buy 5 beans now, and that only sets him off $1,000. Once again, terrible example, but yeah. So before, Chris really didn't want to buy this for $200 per bean. And that's one of the tenets of Keynesian economics and why some people are sort of afraid of Keynesian economics, because it's not based on hard scientific graphs and figures and whatnot. Instead, there's a concept in Keynesian economics that says buyers are sort of knowledgeable and can make decisions outside of just facts and figures. So even though it's $200 per bean, and Chris could totally buy $200 worth of beans with this $5,000, he doesn't want to because of that bean price. However, when he has $15,000, he may want to. And there's that idea of want within the buyer's market. And that's one of the things that people don't like about Keynesian economics is they want to see graphs and they want to see figures. But Keynesian economics, while it has that, one of the main tenets is that buyers are aware of what they want to buy. They don't just, if you have $15,000, you're not just going to go buy a $15,000 car. You have to have a reason to buy that car. So that's one of the messy parts of Keynesian and demand side economics. So in order to understand which demand versus supply, which one you want to support, one thing you have to look at is what is the ranking of the economy that you're looking at. And when I say ranking, I mean the terms first world, second world, third world. There's a lot of debate over what these terms actually mean. It's kind of irrelevant, really. They're just sort of filler words to say what you want them to say. However, the best definition that I have been given, this was given to me by my college professor on economics. He defined the first world, second world, first world. First world, okay, second, and third, all right? Now, the main aspect of these different worlds and economies was their economic backbone. So in a first world, all right, your main economic backbone is services, all right? Now that doesn't mean that you can't have industry and jobs in factories and whatnot, but the main economic backbone of your economy is services. All right, in the second world, it is industry. All right, yay! So we have a lot of factories. We have a lot of making things. All right, and then a third world, the main economic backbone is the supply or exports. All right, of raw material. All right, so third world nation will export a lot of their forests or crops, et cetera, and that's sort of their main economic backbone. All right, and there are more identifiers. For instance, in the first world, we have a low infant mortality rate. Infant mortality. We also have a fairly low birth rate. There are more identifiers, and once again, in the second world, we have a fairly low infant mortality, but we still have a high birth rate. Birth, I'm terrible at writing, and here we have a high infant mortality, high infant, high birth. All right, and those are some of the classifiers when it comes to a first world, second world, third world. All right, some people put a fourth world. It doesn't really matter for what we're looking at. Honestly, when we're talking about America, we're really talking about whether we're a first world country or a second world country. and also what supply versus demand is going to do, and help the most with. So third world, we can really just get away and just make it go away because it really doesn't matter to what we're talking about. Okay, so we're going to focus on first and second world issues. All right, so in a supply side economics, which one do you think will help the most on a supply side economics? I'll give you a second to just throw out a guess. It's going to help a second world country the most. And here's why. All right. So your entire backbone, like the main backbone of your economy, is industry. All right. So that means that the wealthiest people out there with all of the money, okay, this dude, really fancy big hat, lots of money, he has a mustache because he is very rich, right? This guy, he has a lot of money, but his main job is making things, okay? So he is directly making goods and cars or beans or whatever, okay? This guy makes it all. This is the worst car I've ever seen. This is a car, by the way. That's a car. Isn't that crazy? Oh man, look at that little exhaust pipe. Okay, he makes this stuff. All right, the people who own the most money, their main capital, all of their wealth is found in what they make and their industry. Okay, so in a second world nation, a supply side economics is going to help greatly because you are pouring money into these people whose entire well-being is found in what they make, okay? However, in a first world nation, okay, where the first world is defined as their economic backbone is in services, okay, rather than industry, is in services, a demand side is going to help the most. Why? Because the people who own all the money, okay, there's a mustache, okay, he owns all the money, isn't found in what they make, okay? A lot of people in America today, the amount of money that they make is not found in their jobs or their businesses. It is found in things like stocks and bonds. And while they do have businesses, these businesses generally don't make anything. Okay, so let's have a picture for this, okay, of what this means, all right? So let's say we have a business, all right? We have a business here. Yay, businesses, yay. Cool, this is a big skyscraper, okay? So this is business, all right? We'll call him B, all right? B, business, all right? Now, business in this first world nation has a brand, and they sell, let's say, t-shirts and mugs, etc., etc., all right? So they sell a variety of things with the business brand on them. Now, there are a few different ways that you can go about doing this if you're a business. You can either make these products yourselves, okay? Or you can go to a different company, right? And company will have factories somewhere, typically not in the country that you're from, all right? They have factories, and they sell you these t-shirts and mugs and whatnot that have the business brand associated to them, and then brand then sells them to the market, okay? So we have the market over here, and it's a bunch of people, and they're happy, and they're buying your things because they love you so much, and they love business brand. It's the best brand ever, right? So, essentially what this looks like So what this looks like is company makes these things and makes / sells to business, all right? And then business just sells to the market, all right? And this is a way a lot of companies in America work, okay? They have these corporations and whatnot that sell a specific brand, right? But they buy all of their materials from outside companies. So, in a first world nation, the people in business, all right, that own all this money, their main capital is not found in things they make. Rather, it is found in things they sell, all right? And that's a big difference. So when we, with supply side economics, when we give breaks to these guys, they aren't going to necessarily immediately put things back into things that they make. They're just gonna be able either A, to lower their prices on things that they sell, which doesn't help them buying from a company overseas or wherever, okay? That's not going to help them. So they can't really lower their prices, because if they were to, they can't buy as much from the company because their prices are now lower than what company is selling them to. Right, so let's say company is, let's say just t-shirts, okay? Just t-shirts. All right, so company sells to business $1 per t-shirt, right? Per t-shirt. All right. Business then sells those t-shirts for $5 per t-shirt. All right, $5 per t-shirt, all right? So business is making $4 per t-shirt, all right? So what business can do, all right, and that $4 per t-shirt, all right, they sell 500, yada, 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 they make $500,000, all right? Bam, all right? And after taxes, let's say 300, just to keep it easy, taxes and whatnots, they're left with 200,000 per year, all right? Now, if we use supply side economics, all right, and we bring this down to only 200,000, they now have 300,000 to do with as they please, okay? What is business going to do? They just made $300,000 by doing nothing. They essentially just existed. The government said, let's help them out and take off $100,000 in taxes. But business is still having to buy all of their supplies for $1 per t-shirt. So sure, they could sell this for a bit lower price, you know, $4 per t-shirt, let's say. So now they're only making $300, and that's going to reduce this number here, okay? It's not going to increase this number at all. It's going to lower this number if they lower this price, because this price hasn't changed, all right? And that's the problem with the American economic system right now, as it relates to supply side economics, is that a lot of our businesses aren't making their own things. They're buying things from outside companies offshore in different economic circles, and now they're trying to sell that stuff. So by giving them tax breaks and stuff, all they're going to do with that extra $100,000 is buy, you know, company cars. All right. So now the bigwig executive there is like, oh well, we need a company car. Let's buy a Lexus company car or some really nice car and call it a company car. All right. Because you made $100,000 for free. All right. There's no reason to sell for lower because you're not buying for lower. There's no reason to lower your prices. And that's a problem with a first world nation using supply side economics. In a second world country where industry is the main backbone, the main economic backbone, I will totally agree with you that we want to focus on supply side economics, because that's going to directly help the economy by helping industry out, and they're going to be able to make their things for less money and be able to sell it for lower. But in this instance where services is our main economic backbone, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So that is why I am for a demand side economics. Where's the cap? There it is. So that's why I'm for a demand side economic system. Furthermore, demand side economics really helps the purchasing power of your dollar. One of the main tenets of capitalism is that you can vote with your dollar. Vote your money, right? So in capitalism, you have the invisible hand, and if your business is run well and you do the right moves, the invisible hand gives you a thumbs up and says, good job, and people buy your product, and so on and so forth. But if you are a terrible business and people don't like you, they will vote with their money, and you will go bankrupt and no one will buy from you because people are voting with their money. In a system that focuses on the supply side, especially in a first world nation, which America is, if we're focusing on the supply side, we're removing the purchasing power of our money, because no longer can we vote on what's best or what we want to see in the market. Instead, the government is saying, okay, your business, have X amount of free dollars from tax cuts and tax breaks, and go out and help your business. Whereas if we were on demand side, the American people and the American public would say, well, we want to see this, and we like this company, and we want to pour money into this business. And you begin to vote with your money because you have the money to vote. So many people nowadays are having to buy only what they need and what they can, and this is why grocery stores like Walmart are so great, because we don't have a lot of money to spend, and Walmart is dirt cheap in most areas, and you will be able to buy so much more with your money, and that is worth something. But if we had more money to spend, then we wouldn't buy from places like Walmart. We would go to nicer places, mom and pop shops, et cetera, and we vote with our money, and that's the point of capitalism, really, is that you are voting with your money. So, in recap, okay, supply side helps with an economy that is based on industry, which is a second world nation. A demand side economics, Keynesian economics, helps an economy the most when it is based on services, right, rather than industry. So we're looking at services. And if you want to debate that America's economy is not based on services, there are if you're driving on the highway, there are entire towns where there is a gas station and that's it. And what is that? That is a service, not an industry, right? Our entire economy in America is based on services. Now, that's not to say that there aren't industrial jobs. There are, all right? But our main economic backbone is services, and we should be helping people afford those services, not helping the industry, which is not our main economic backbone.